Richard, how are you?
Hanging in there.
Good to hear. Joe, how are you? You're on mute.
Unmute. How am
There
I
you
There
now?
you go. Yeah.
All right.
No, we
Thank
got you
you.
now.
Rookie mistake.
How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you.
Good.
Yep.
Good to hear. I see Autumn down there as the official person. Richard, for tonight's appeal, I saw that we had a similar one back last March that I was not there for.
Neither was I.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering about that. Joe, do you remember that one?
I do.
You do.
I
Gotcha. Well,
mean,
thank you
it
for
was
that
it
then.
was it was a year ago, so I do remember it. And but yeah, not a lot of the specifics that were discussed,
That's okay.
certainly.
Gotcha.
I actually went back and found the documents for it because I was curious about it. So when we get to the time in the to talk about it, I can share what I know about it based
Great.
on my review of the minutes and so on.
Great. Okay. Well, we are at the top of the hour. How are we looking in the council chambers? There we are. So who do we have in Scarborough?
Dave Bork and Rebecca Hatt.
Gotcha. Terrific. Okay. Then we will call the meeting to order. Thank you, everyone. And as we always do, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if I could ask everybody to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Doreen, if you could call the roll.
Peter Freilinger,
Here.
O'Doherty,
Here.
Richard Silkman,
Richard?
Did you not hear me? Oh, no.
Now we can hear you, but did you say you were here?
Yes, yeah,
Great.
okay.
David Bork,
Yes, here.
and Rebecca Hatt. Here.
Terrific. First off, welcome, Rebecca. This is your first meeting. We appreciate you being here. And unusually for a second alternate, we will be elevating you to a voting member for the purposes of this meeting. Shelley could not attend. It was a last minute personal issue that came up. And I guess Mike's not around either, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I thought he said he was coming, but
No, I thought he said, I thought he did too. So, but in any event, here we are. We have a slight. First off, I'll remind everyone this is a recorded session. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a quasi-judicial body established under the Maine statute to adjudicate variances and various other matters under our zoning code and some other things that pop up from time to time. Today is more of a traditional session. Although we do approve the findings of fact from last month's meeting, which was an administrative appeal. So again, one of those items that is somewhat different from our normal scheduled appearances. We will hear the items as they appear in the agenda, although we will shuffle the agenda real quickly to begin tonight to make sure that we elect our officers for the coming year. And the public will be given a chance to comment on individual variances and if they have any general comments at the end. But otherwise, this is again more of a quasi-judicial session and not something that is dealing with the planning or other elements of forward planning for the town. With that in mind, I would like to bring forward the election of our officers, chair and vice chair for the coming year. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Chair, I do have a motion. The
Terrific.
motion is to nominate Peter Freilinger for chair and also Richard Silkman for vice chair.
Do I have a second for that motion?
Second it.
Okay, terrific. Any further comment? I will mention that on email, Shelley again can't make it tonight. Thought it was she was in favor of the motion, but other than that, I'll leave it to the rest of the group. And Michael just joined. Michael, are you there?
I'm definitely here. How are you?
Terrific. We called the roll, so we will call you in now. We have a motion just to elect the officers for the coming year. That's on the table right now.
Okay. I'm at work, so I'm just gonna slide into the office. I'll be offline for just a hot second.
Sure,
But I'm right
no
here
problem.
with us.
So again, any further discussion? Then, Doreen, why don't we slowly call the roll so that Michael could have a chance, and we can move this through.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Richard Silkman,
yes,
Joe Doherty,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
David Bork,
Yes,
and Rebecca Hatt. Yes.
Okay, terrific. That takes care of that a bit. And I think actually going forward now, Rebecca, you go back to being an alternate. Michael is the first alternate, so he's the voting member. But thank you very much for being ready to jump in there. So we appreciate that. Okay, so the first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes. So do I have a motion to approve?
so moved.
Thank you, David. Second?
second,
Thank you, Richard. Any comments? They look pretty good, and this was a difficult set of minutes to assemble. I gotta call out Doreen for doing a really good job on the administrative appeal. So this was a tough one, and I want to thank her for being as diligent as she was. But any other comments or issues, and we can vote this?
I wasn't able to attend last month, so I'm just gonna cruise myself from
Gotcha.
voting on these.
And we can't draw back to Rebecca, but that's okay. We've got enough for we've got a quorum here for this vote. So Doreen, if you call the roll.
David Bork,
Yes.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Richard Silkman,
Yes.
and Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay. And then the next item is the findings of fact for the administrative appeal itself. This was Appeal 2792 by Freddie Flaherty on behalf of the New Seaward on the Oceanfront Inc. on 5 Bliss Street. Again, we've got the minute notes, and we've got the findings as were prepared and presented by staff. And I will take a pause here. Staff did a great job of putting these together, but I always worry about on administrative appeals, the fact that staff is preparing the findings of fact on our behalf as well. I thought they did a great job. I don't think there's anything that we could find conflicting in any of this. But I just want to offer that up as a comment before I look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, David. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any other comments? Okay, so Doreen, if you call the roll.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Richard Silkman,
Yes.
Michael Campbell,
Aye.
Joe Doherty.
I wasn't there for the meeting,
that's
so
right.
I'm
Still have
David
Shane, yeah.
Bork.
Yes.
Terrific. Then we have approval of that item. Thank you very much. And then we have our one item of the one substantive item for the evening tonight. Appeal number 2792, a variance appeal by the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife on behalf of Calvin Vachon, 8 Moores Point Road. And I guess Doreen, who do we have in present who will be presenting the request for the appeal?
We have someone in the audience. Would you like them to introduce themselves just for folks online?
If they could, and if they could do the normal thing, Helen, and have them head up to the podium and go through that.
Sure.
And I do have a question. This is being brought by Inland Fisheries. It's not being brought by Calvin.
Correct. Yes, I think that they can speak to that if you'd like. So we'll have them introduce themselves and clarify maybe for the benefit of the board.
That would be great. I would appreciate that. So if they could step up and announce who they are, where they are, where they live, and then offering some of that context would be helpful.
Great.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Flora Drury. I am a land acquisition biologist for Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. You asked where I live. I live in Brunswick, not in Scarborough, but I work for the state of Maine.
Got it.
And just to give a little bit of background, Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife owns land across the state, manages wildlife management areas, and from time to time we purchase new land to be managed as wildlife management areas for wildlife habitat and public access. And then from time to time we purchase land to build on existing WMAs. As you know, Scarborough Marsh Wildlife Management Area is one of IF&W's most well-known and loved wildlife management areas across the state, and that's why we're here today. IF&W is under contract with Mr. Vachon to buy the marshland portion of his lot, and this is, as you mentioned earlier, a familiar situation. We were here last year in a very similar situation. And so the acres that we were under contract to purchase would be conserved and managed as part of the Scarborough Marsh WMA. My understanding is that Mr. Vachon, as the landowner, submitted the application, but we also were part of providing the information for that. So I don't know exactly how to answer that question, other than it was my understanding that as the landowner, that was the application was submitted from Mr. Vachon.
I guess part of it, and I appreciate that context, that's helpful, is I'm not sure, is the variance for the portion of land that you are purchasing or is the variance for the purchase of piece of land that will remain in Mr. Vashon's possession? And Helen, maybe you can add that
Yeah.
context.
I can speak to that. The variance is for the portion of the parcel that would remain with the appellant, Mr. Vashon. So this is a variance to the required frontage for the parcel so that the remaining, the portion of the parcel remaining with the appellant would not become non-conforming in the event of the transfer of the rest of the parcel to the department.
Got it.
If
Okay.
yeah, if that's helpful.
And I don't know if this is helpful, but just a little bit more context as to why IF&W is interested in this specific portion of Mr. Vashon's lot. In addition to being adjacent to our existing ownership, the marshland is part of a focus area of ecological significance, one of many across the state, but a pretty important place statewide, as people in Scarborough probably know better than most. The property has mapped habitat for endangered saltmarsh sparrow, is tidal wading bird and waterfowl habitat, and these are some of the reasons that we're interested. And I can talk a little bit more about the specific decision criteria that I think need to be addressed for this specific application, if you like.
We'd appreciate that. That'd be great, please.
Okay. So as you know, a variance is necessary for Mr. Vashon to sell this portion of his land to IF&W because technically the road frontage for his home required by the zoning ordinance is on Black Point Road and is part of the land he proposes to sell to the department. The ordinance requires 100 feet of frontage, and Mr. Vashon has 200 feet on Black Point Road. But as a practical matter, the frontage is entirely marshland, which is why we're interested. And it doesn't and cannot provide access to Mr. Vashon's home. Instead, he accesses his house on Moores Point Road, to which he has 50 feet of frontage. So I understand the four decision criteria to be one about reasonable return if the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return. And so it's our feeling that the highest and best use of the marshland portion of the lot would be to conserve it and incorporate it into the adjacent Scarborough Marsh Wildlife Management Area. And without the variance, that wouldn't be possible. The need for the variance is due to the unique circumstance of the property, for sure, because the property that is accessed by a different route than the road frontage provides. The granting of variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and that's certainly the case in our opinion. We would incorporate these 2.5 acres into the adjacent Scarborough Marsh Wildlife Management Area and manage them consistently, so it would not change at all. And then the hardship is not the result of an action taken by the applicant or a prior owner. It's just, in our opinion, a unique circumstance where the frontage that's satisfying the zoning requirements really isn't actually how the property could ever be accessed. So we don't see the hardship as being caused by the applicant or a prior owner, but instead just a unique circumstance that we hope to which a variance might be granted. Thanks.
To help my understanding of this, and then I'm going to give it over to the other members of the board. There is a map provided, or what looked like almost a hand-drawn overlay of the district. What exactly is being conveyed to inland fisheries? And could we maybe call that document up so we can understand what's going on?
I'm pulling it up now.
Great.
And so while it's being pulled up, I can also just speak to that. Mr. Vashon's lot has both upland where his house is located and marshland. And so the acquisition would just be, we will get a survey before the purchase is complete to define the exact line, but the intent would be for Mr. Vashon to retain the upland and the department to purchase the marshland.
And there was no way to do a swap so we could get 100 feet of frontage on one of the two roads that are in question here?
And I don't know if everyone online could hear that. Mr. Vashon was just speaking.
Peter, this is
you-
Autumn. There's no access available off Moores Point Road, and they would be able, they could in theory retain 100 foot of frontage off Black Point Road, so it would be this sliver of, again, unusable land just for the sake of
Yep.
having frontage.
Yep. Well, and again, this maybe is where the map would help out. So there's three colors on the map. There's the gold portion and a brown portion, and then some scattered blue portions of the map. What's being conveyed, and what are we looking at here for frontage?
Peter, give us 1 second. I have it on my computer.
Got it.
Okay, how? Okay, all right. Yeah, keep going.
Come on, Peter, fill the void.
There will be a map shortly.
Richard's got something to say. Richard, go for it.
You can do it.
This is to the Fish and Wildlife representative. Did you guys approach Mr. Vashon, or did he approach you about selling the property?
Well, I think
Flag just quickly, sorry, if you're gonna speak, it has to be into the record, so you'll have to go up to the mic. Thank you.
How you doing? I'm not really quite sure how this all came about. I know I spoke to my neighbor Al about he selling his land. I don't know how, if he approached wildlife or they approached him. But my conversation with Al, after a while, I happened to see the folks in the marsh doing some surveying, and I approached them and asked them what they were doing, and they said they were doing some surveying, and we had the conversation going, so this is where we are now.
Got it.
The reason I ask the question is one of our criteria is that the circumstance can't be caused by the owner of the property. And it seems to me that if the owner of the property seeks to sell a piece of the property and then that causes a problem, it's the action of the owner that's causing the problem. Now, if Fish and Wildlife came to you and said, we want to take this property by eminent domain, which I believe they have the authority to do, then that would not be an action of the applicant. But if you voluntarily go to the Fish and Wildlife and say, I want to sell you a piece of my property, but that's going to leave the rest of my property in violation of the ordinances, then that seems to be exactly caused by the applicant's actions he or she has taken, and that would violate our criteria. So I'm having a little problem with that criteria among others.
Well, I don't know what to say about that. What did you do did you approve the sale of the variance with my neighbor's property?
Well, that's another matter. I mean, we can get to that, but we're only looking at your case now.
Okay.
Well, and on that, Autumn, I don't have that document that you've got on the screen. I've got what looks like a hand-drawn document that was included as part of the agenda materials.
This is the application. I got it from the agenda online.
Do you want to speak to this?
Okay, let me see if there's another file then.
I just opened up the agenda packet from the
Yeah, I
website.
just opened it up too. I've got notice area mapping.
It's about a
This
pretty
is-
page.
This is
You gotta
in
scroll
the
way down.
application packet.
It's
That would be a different
Page
attachment.
13 of the application, Peter.
Okay, got it.
And what you're looking at here, the red is the marsh portion of Mr. Vashon's lot that would be conveyed to the department if this variance were approved. And then the yellow is the portion of his lot that he would retain. And once again, and the road you're seeing there is, well, the larger road you're seeing there is Black Point Road, and the road through the woods that you can kind of see is Morse Point Road leading to Mr. Vashon's property. And once again, we would get a survey that line would be adjusted a little bit after a survey was complete.
Gotcha. Autumn, could I ask you to go to that other document then in the agenda?
Which one is it?
It is titled Notice Area Mapping, 8 North Point Road.
Where is it at in the agenda? Helen, do you know?
Yeah, I'll try to pull it up. I think that might be something provided by staff on our end, though, for the noticing.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
it
That's
was in the
for,
board
yeah, noticing
docs
to the
agenda
abutters.
item details.
It is in there, and I'll pull it up, but I was just flagging that it's not part of the well, okay, hang on.
And I raise it because it doesn't really kind of map to what Autumn you just showed for the application material.
Autumn, you might beat me to it, this one. Sorry.
Guess I just don't know what I'm looking for. Notice area mapping?
Yes,
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
1 second.
I was in the wrong Zoom link this whole time, so between the two of us.
And then when we get a sec here, Joe, did you have a question you want to drop in?
I did, and it's sort of so as I look at the 4 points, the 4 criteria, and the first one, that the land cannot yield reasonable return, and the response was that the highest use of the land would be to transfer it. In this case, sell it, not transfer, but sell it. I think somebody with more knowledge maybe can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the land that's designated for sale is not developable. So regardless of who has actual ownership, unless I'm misunderstanding something, it is what it is. And transfer or sale, or if it stays with the current owner, it can't be developed. Am I wrong?
And Richard, that's kind of my question as you kind of are looking at this as well. I don't see a use for this property that is economic any longer, except to be sold to a willing buyer in the form of the state. If another buyer wanted to buy it, they would buy it, but they still would be prevented from doing anything economic with it, other than holding onto it as dead land.
If I could
Yeah,
just clarify, the variance is actually for the remaining land.
Yeah.
So the variance is for that parcel that'll be left. And it's for a variance to the frontage that's required by the zoning district. And the
But as I
reason that
understand it, they have to, or the piece you want to buy forces that property into having only
Correct.
50 feet of frontage.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Property itself, the whole property in yellow there, I mean, that has economic value, right? Currently, it's worth whatever the market value of that property is. And what we're doing is the owner has made a decision to cleave off a piece of that. And as a result, needs a variance on the remaining parcel. But it's the owner that's making that decision to do that.
I will point out that this exhibit that's shown now, the yellow is the parcel that we're talking about tonight, and the blue, if I recall, represents the parcel that this was done on last year.
Yeah.
So Autumn, what is being sold this year?
The rectangular portion of the yellow piece. The blue was, see the very narrow blue line at the top of the yellow? This was how this property got frontage off of Black Point Road, because they too have access off Morse Point Road. And so they purchased, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, did you purchase all of this portion?
Yes, we purchased if you were to sort of, it's a little bit tricky, but the triangle to the north, that, and then a little strip of
And
land, and then, yes.
all that. What remained was a lot that met the lot size, but they received a frontage variance for Moore's Point.
Okay. And then again, just because I'm still confused on this one, what is the Inland Fisheries going to buy?
This portion of, can you see my cursor?
Yep, the yellow
Yep.
block there.
Just not the triangle piece. That will remain, and that's what the variance request is for.
I honestly think the other attachment might be more helpful, like demonstrating.
Right, than
what's
this.
being, yeah, what's being purchased.
Yeah.
The,
No, it's just that triangle was floating in the middle of a bunch of forest that I couldn't really
Gotcha.
mhm.
understand. Yeah, sorry. Okay, I think I understand the dynamics of the property lines at this point. So I
Mr.
apologize
Chair,
for, I thank everybody for bearing with me as I kind of mentally got that picture.
Mr. Chair, the speaker wishes to address the board.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I did just want to chime into something that was said earlier to speak of the benefits of this portion of marsh being combined with the Scarborough Marsh Wildlife Management Area. Although it wouldn't be developed either way, we do think that there would be benefits to it becoming part of the wildlife management area in that some of the department's management techniques might benefit the land, such as invasive species removal projects, things of that nature. Management of the land could look, there could be benefits to the marsh as a whole if it were to become part of the WMA. I know that was something that was mentioned a while ago, but just wanted to chime in to say that.
Got it.
If you were to buy a conservation easement, that you would not need this variance because the property would remain intact.
Richard, would you mind starting your sentence over one time? I'm sorry, I think you cut out a bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
If you were to buy a conservation easement for the property instead of a fee right to it, then we would not need a variance in this case. The property would remain intact, including the frontage on Black Point Road. Why is it that you can't buy a conservation easement perpetuity for the property instead of having to have fee ownership?
Yeah, that's a really great question. IFNW, as a matter of policy, for the most part, isn't taking on new conservation easements for a number of reasons. So our acquisition program is really focused on fee acquisition. So if that were to be the only option, I think probably we wouldn't pursue a conservation outcome here. That doesn't mean that another entity might opt to do that, but that wouldn't be something the department would do here.
One of the, Peter, can I jump in? You mentioned that there's public benefit to your ownership of it, and I don't disagree with that at all. But the public benefit doesn't affect any of the criteria in our zoning ordinances. So for example, if that parcel were a developable parcel and the owner wanted to sell it to develop for low-income housing, there would be a tremendous public benefit for doing that. You would then come to us and ask for a zoning variance on the remaining parcel. And we'd be stuck in this position where we would say, you know, we would be in the same position that you're asking us to do something that creates a little bit of problems given the criteria that we have to operate under. I mean, we can't consider whether or not this property is of any value one way or another in a different use. That doesn't fit into the criteria. I mean, it doesn't allow us to say, well, it's going to be better, and therefore, if there's a bad impact on the neighborhood, no problem. We can't do that. So,
Mr. Chair,
David.
if you look at the preamble of this particular type of undue hardship variance, it does specify that part of this has to be done within the realm of preserving the public good. Also, the town of Scarborough, if I'm not mistaken, has established a goal of putting 30% of the land into Scarborough into conservation by the year 2030. Am I correct with that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think that's very important for us to consider that part of it. So, and this is a very complex application. It's not the usual undue hardship because there is no hardship. Yes, it puts the remaining land, or parcel of land, out of conformance as far as the front, 100 feet down to 50 feet. So it's out of conformance. But that doesn't really affect anything in the present. It could in the future if the owner or a future owner were to apply for a variance to do any kind of development on this property. It could, but we can't assume that's going to happen. And again, I go back to the point that, yes, this action, would, if we grant the variance here, yes, it will put the remaining parcel out of compliance. However, I think there's a lot more good to the town that's coming and the state that's coming from this. And we need to take that into consideration in deciding, whether this variance makes sense. Is this a typical variance? Not at all. There are so many other variables here for us to consider. And I think it's important for us to really look at the totality of the appeal and the consequences it would have. And there's a lot of good that will come from this. And there's very little harm that would come if we, prove it. Yes, again, it makes it non-conforming, but I really don't think that has any immediate impact on the remaining property.
Richard, you had raised your hand before Joe got his hand up, so I'm going to get Richard first and then Joe.
I'm glad you mentioned that, David. What I thought as well, I think that your point is right on. And it's even, in a way, it's even further than that. I mean, the applicant is being paid for that property. So to the extent that there is a potential harm in the future, it's his or her ability to develop the property or to sell it. The owner's being compensated for that, presumably at a rate that's adequate. Now, I suspect that if we were to turn down the variance, maybe the owner would go back to Fish and Wildlife and say, instead of whatever the price is that you're offering me, I need more money because I'm losing the right to do things in the future that I might otherwise want to do. But that's part of a private transaction. And that makes this more complicated. It's not simply I mean, we're asking, when you strip everything away, we're asking to grant a variance to an owner who has figured out a way to make money by giving away parts of his property and being in non-conformity. I just worry about the precedent setting for that.
I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with that characterization, Richard. I think that might be taking it a bit too cynically, given the circumstances that we seem to have before us. This is not an arbitrage transaction being entered into by a ruthless property baron. This is somebody who approached a state surveyor and thought, well, the state's looking to acquire more marshland property. He lives in a town which has an announced 30 for 30 initiative. Yeah, I would be careful about that characterization.
Fair point. And I wasn't trying to cast any aspersions on that, and I said it incorrectly. And Peter, thank you very much for correcting me on that. But the bottom line is that we've all acknowledged that that parcel that's being transferred has no economic value for development purposes. And yet this payment that's being made for it. And so the owner is benefiting from that transaction. And we're looking to approve a variance in which the bottom line is as I just described. Wildlife were to go to the owner and say, I want to take this property because it's a valuable piece of property and I want to take it by eminent domain. And I have to compensate you for it. And the compensation is, as we just described, I would feel much more comfortable because at that point, the owner hasn't taken the initiative. What's happening is outside of the owner's control. It satisfies our variance criteria much more completely and accurately. My concern is that we're back in contract zoning in a way by allowing the benefits of the resulting property use offset a negative consequences, which is a variance. And I don't think that we have it in our authority to do those kinds of things. I think that's what the planning board has to do when it establishes zoning and issues permits. So that's my concern.
Well, keep in
The
mind, the
fact that
planning
we've
board
got
doesn't
the
issue zoning. That's town council through the ordinance
town
committee.
council.
Yeah, so,
My problem with this is that we've done it once.
yeah.
And so I'm a little bit apprehensive about saying no to somebody who a year ago was exactly the same circumstances and we said yes to. And they have some right to rely on precedent. I probably would have disagreed with that previous decision, but that's not, I wasn't there and that's not the vote of the board. So I'm just throwing that
Okay.
out on the table.
Let me give Joe a chance to come in here.
Okay. So, yeah, first of
Joe?
all, yes, do you hear?
Yep, I can hear it. Sorry.
Yeah. So, first off, I agree with everything that Mr. Bork said earlier. Yeah, the transfer of the land or the sale of the land, the acquisition of this land for conservation purposes. Yeah, I agree. It fits with where the town generally wants to go. I also find myself agreeing with Mr. Silkman in that, yeah, it feels a little funny to be granting a variance, which then in turn, allows the sale rather than just the transfer.
Feels a little frozen.
The deed, but excuse me.
What does that mean?
I thought somebody commented. However, there's another thing here that I think when I look at the piece of land that is going to be separated from the existing property, that borders Black Point Road, and it seems like with the current zoning, right, they're compliant because of the land that borders Black Point Road, yet the property is accessed and the address is on Moore Road. Am I correct in this? And so, yeah, it seems to me, leaving aside the sale or transfer of the property piece, that it makes sense that it would be reasonable to offer the option to give this piece of land to conservation, because the property itself has nothing to do, right? The actual developable piece of property has nothing to do with Black Point Road, right? It's actually on Moores Point Road. And so the reduction there from 100 feet minimum to the 50, it seems to be reasonable to me. Yeah, it's been said in a couple of occasions, this is there's a lot of tentacles to this whole thing. And at the end of the day, I believe that the transfer, makes sense. That in the end, the piece of land goes to a use or is protected, and it goes to a better use. And then we have a remaining lot on Moores Point Road that has a variance for 50-foot frontage, which is very similar to what at least one of the other lots that I see, the 007 lot, has a 40-foot frontage on Moores Point Road. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I'm going to cut
Chair,
things off
sorry.
for us right now. We're going to have a chance to talk through this as we talk about our findings of fact. So,
Mr.
if
Chair,
I
can
could,
I
I think I
interrupt
saw somebody
briefly?
at the podium.
Yes, sorry, that's what I was going to bring up. Thank you. I take it you're representing the applicant as well.
Hi, my name is Allison Truesdale. I work at the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife as a land acquisition assistant, and was involved with the previous variance appeal. I just wanted to express my view of what we're asking for. The Mr. Vashon's lot, as it stands currently, is in compliance with the standards in name only. And as you say, the access, yes, there's 100 feet or 200 feet on Black Point Road, but it's totally unusable. So in effect, the only access he has is via Moores Point Road. And so I think that this variance in essence is simply acknowledging or bringing the lot into compliance where it already is, in effect, practically speaking, out of compliance, regardless of what he does with the marshland. So, and the other point being that in that case, there is no downside to granting the variance. It's not a negative that needs to be offset by a benefit.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And that's
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'd like to recognize that Rebecca, even though she's not voting tonight, should be allowed to have the opportunity to speak at this point if she wishes to.
If she, yeah, no question, David. On that one, I just wanted to make sure Richard and Joe close things down. But Rebecca, if you got anything that's, and at this point, it's really, we're trying to ask questions of the appellant, in this case, both the appellant and the owner, which are two different people, oddly enough. And then we'll close the comment questions down, section down, and we'll ask the appellant to describe their views of the appropriate findings of fact. I'll ask if there's any final public comments to be made, and then we'll go into our session and we'll have a discussion, and all five of us will talk. So with that background, because we haven't had a chance to go through this with you in detail yet, if you have any questions of the appellant or the owner or anything at this time, great time to ask.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. I don't think I have any further questions at this point, but I did find that last statement very helpful and illuminating in terms of how I framed it as well. Thank you.
You got it.
Peter, do you mind if I add something? This is Autumn again.
Go
I just
ahead.
want to caution you. The last statement, we do allow lots in the town of Scarborough to get their frontage without it looking like a standard lot. And so I would caution you to use that sort of statement, not having to do anything with the unusability of the land as a justification for this variance. That would have some serious ramifications for all of the lots in town, or a lot of the lots in town. I just want you to be cautioned.
Autumn, did I
Aware of
make
that.
that statement? I don't think or was that from?
No, from the applicant representative,
The
Ms.
applicant, okay,
Truesdale.
got it.
She just had mentioned that it was out of compliance the way that it's configured, taking their frontage off Black Point.
Understood.
And totally agree that that makes sense in theory, but that is not how our zoning functions. I just want you all to be aware of that.
Got it. No, appreciate it. Thank you. And very good clarification, Autumn. Thank you very much. So with that in mind, so I'm not sure who from Inland Fisheries will take the podium here, but we'll go through the four criteria for the variance and have you read in the justifications you have as the appellant. And we apologize. This is an exercise of reading into the record. So if you're reading off of the page, that's not a bad thing, but thanks very much.
Thank you. And I do just want to clarify, in our opinion, the appellant is the owner. The department is here in partnership with the owner, who is the appellant.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. So for the first item then, the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return unless the variance is granted. Reasonable return does not mean maximum return. Applicant must demonstrate practical loss of virtually all reasonable use of the land if the variance is not granted. Reasonable return is not determined by personal circumstances of the applicant.
Would you like me to read what I read
Yeah,
previously?
exactly.
Okay. It's my opinion that the highest and best use of the marshland portion of map R074, lot 008B, is to incorporate it into the adjacent Scarborough Marsh Wildlife Management Area and conserve that portion of the property. Unless the variance is granted, this portion of marshland, including a portion of an existing stream, would not be able to be added to the wildlife management area or managed by IF&W.
Thanks. So criteria 2, the need for the variance is due to the unique circumstance of the property. The criterion applies to property, not people, and to an uncommon condition not shared by the neighborhood.
Thank you. The need for this variance is due to the unique circumstances of map R074, lot 008B, which relies on marshland road frontage, that's Black Point Road, that could not be practically used for access to meet zoning requirements.
The granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
The Scarborough Marsh Wildlife Management Area, an acknowledged environmental jewel, surrounds the neighborhood. If this variance is approved, IF&W would purchase these acres to add to the WMA and manage the lands in the same manner as other surrounding lands are managed. As such, a variance would not change the nature of the neighborhood.
Points for using the word jewel. Number 4, the hardship is not the result of action taken by the applicant or a prior owner of the property.
The hardship is not the result of an action taken by the landowner or prior owners of this parcel. Though much of the 3.8 acre parcel is comprised of marshland, it meets zoning requirements, including the requirement that it have 100 feet of road frontage. But that road frontage is technical, not actual useful frontage. The marsh always has comprised the major portion of Mr. Vachon's parcel, and Moores Point Road, not Black Point Road, has provided access to Mr. Vachon's house.
Terrific. Thanks very much. Okay. Autumn, is there, or Helen, is there any public comment, or were there any public comments that were not included as part of the materials provided to the board?
I'm not seeing anyone online or in person, and I don't believe there were any public comments submitted for this appeal.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. We will close the public hearing portion of this discussion then, and we will enter into our conversation. And Rebecca, again, what we typically do here is we go around and each member takes one of the items here and we gives their summary of what they view as the correct finding of fact for that item of the variance requirements, and then we'll have a general discussion on it. So with that one, I will call it Richard, you're number 1, Joe, you're number 2, Michael, you're number 3, and Rebecca will give you a shot on number 4, if that's okay. So Richard, I'll let you go through item number 1.
I don't have it in front of me, but I think the criteria is that without the variance, the property would be rendered essentially worthless, or there'd be no economic value associated with the property. Here it is. The land in question cannot yield a reasonable return once the variance is granted. This is a tough one. The property includes the existing house, and as Mr. Bork pointed out, nothing will change if there's no variance given.
Right.
Obviously, a non-conforming house can continue to be lived in and forever, as long as there's no serious work that needs to be done on the house, or as long as nobody wants to add on to it or otherwise modify it. So what we're looking at is a situation where if the variance is not granted and the sale goes through, and the lot is now in nonconformity, whether or not there'll be a significant loss of value. I just don't think there will be. And there'll be an inability to add on, there'll be an inability to move forward, but until that time arises, the land will continue to be used exactly as it's currently being used. The house will continue to be used as it's currently being used. And my own feeling is that this criteria is just not met. And I don't think the applicant has demonstrated that it's been met. So that's where I am on this one, Peter.
Gotcha. Other thoughts?
Yes,
David, go for it.
great. I'd just like to add to it. The portion of the property the appellant seeks to transfer is entirely within the Resource Protection District, making it undevelopable, but allowing all the environmentally responsible types of activities that take place within the WMA. Also, the land in question only serves the current owners to provide 100 feet required frontage in the R2 district for the lot, which is assessed by Moore's Point Road and therefore has almost no value to the appellant when taken into itself. No responsible return can be derived from this portion of the lot unless it can be conveyed to the main island fisheries and wildlife for future management protection. And I would just add one more point. This is common practice for the main fisheries and wildlife management to purchase land. And they do it by getting accurate assessments of the value of the property. So this is just a very fair transaction that's commonplace. So there's really, I don't see any unusual benefit to the property owner in terms of a gain that's not out of the ordinary. Thank you.
Michael, any thoughts on your side on this one?
I would have to agree with him.
With David?
For each step. I'm sorry, could you hear me? I'm in the office, so it's a little, the reception.
You were concurring with David?
Correct.
Got it. Yeah, Joe, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not sure any of this is going to be constructive, but yeah, I do have thoughts. Maybe I'll just keep them to myself for now, but yeah, I guess what I would say, and the board's been put in this position on a number of occasions, right? The vehicles available, the types of variances available sometimes are not aligned with some of these requests that we see, right? We do our best. The applicant does their best given the options they have in front of them. So I struggle with criteria one as well. Especially when I look at the map, it's clear that when that subdivision was put together, and this goes to, I think, what Autumn was speaking to earlier, that if you look at the various lots that were created, they were all created to meet, it seems, a criteria, right? Which is 100 foot. And so the lots that don't have 100 feet on the actual access road were structured in a way so that they had that frontage on Black Point Road. That's what it looks like when I look at the map. And so the thing that I struggle with is that the town approves a subdivision, however long ago, based on the fact that there's certain frontage. And then some number of years later, somebody comes to us and says, hey, I maybe for perfectly good reason, transfer land. And that means I need a variance now. And so the town makes a decision for one reason, to make sure that the codes are followed and that you have the right frontage. And then we're going to make a decision some years later that I don't know if I'm adequately communicating, but it just seems to me it's a very strange. Yeah. Anyway,
Hey, Joe, I'd like to just tag on to what you're saying, and I'll I'll ask this question to April. Was this subdivision built prior to zoning, prior to modern zoning, 1991, I believe?
I honestly don't know. I
Does
didn't
anybody know?
review that part.
No.
It's quite, it makes me think that it was developed with zoning because of the frontage,
Yeah,
because otherwise it would probably just have been built off Morris
Okay.
Point Road, but I honestly don't know.
yeah. So nothing was grandfathered in or, okay, the property owner wishes to say something. Could you step up to the microphone, please?
I can't remember the builder of the house, but I do know that it was conformed to zoning back then, and I think it was around 1997. I believe.
Okay, yeah, that would be after
Right.
modern zoning was implemented.
And nobody could understand why the town they had to conform it that way, but that's what happened.
Thank you, sir. So, yes, Joe,
Gotcha.
to add to the confusion.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to bring up the tax card on it. Rebecca, do you have any thoughts?
Not at this time, thank you.
Got it. I guess what I'd say is I feel effectively like what Joe was saying. I feel like this is a square peg in a round hole. Um, and one of the things I want to kind of clarify too is I don't think this is an issue where it doesn't sound like Mr. Vashon was going out traipsing about trying to get a bid on the property from Maine Wildlife. It sounds like this was a happy meeting of a wildlife agency that wants to conserve land in a town that wants to conserve and put aside land for conservation, and an owner who discovered an opportunity serendipitously. And I worry that the nature of this, of both the hardship variance and what we're usually asked for in these sorts of things, fits more of an adversarial model where you might be creating opportunities or you might be imposing opportunities on abutters that they don't want to have imposed on them versus what we're facing in this set of circumstances and facts. So I feel like I understand Richard's reluctance to step outside the four corners of the text of the ordinance and the state statute, but it doesn't feel like those four corners very easily fit this property. So I'm inclined to find that despite that the language being uncomfortable, that I would be comfortable finding with a finding of fact that said this was acceptable. So that's where I stand. And do we think we're ready for a vote on this?
Yes.
I think we are.
Just one other thing.
Sure, Richard.
This is an odd situation. I mean, we have to make findings of fact, and they all have to be approved. We have precedent here that's pretty powerful. I mean, when less than a year ago, the board granted the variance in similar, not similar, exactly the same circumstances.
Yeah.
Makes it very uncomfortable to do anything other than grant the variance, quite frankly. I mean, so even though I stated that it was difficult to figure out how this fits within the four corners, I'm inclined to vote on this one in favor of it. Even though it's tough.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, let's go further. Do we feel that in the first item of the requirement for the variance that the appellant has met the requirements? Doreen, you want to call the roll on this one?
David Bork,
Yes.
Peter Freilinger,
Yeah.
Richard Silkman,
Yes.
Joe Doherty,
Yes.
and Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Moving on to the second item in the variance then. Let's see. The need for the variance is due to the unique circumstances of the property. This criterion applies to property, not people, into an uncommon condition not shared by the neighborhood. Joe, you'll take this one?
Yes. So I I do believe that it's due to the unique circumstances of the property where when the lot was created, in order to meet road frontage, it was essentially structured in a way where it met the frontage through having it on Black Point Road, even though the property was accessed through another road. So certainly it's a very unique property, and the fact that that land on Black Point Road is in fact not developable, and really doesn't have any value apart from being preserved in its current state and cared for going forward. I do believe it meets this criteria.
Got it. Any other thoughts from folks? Not hearing any. I'm inclined to agree with that as well. So why don't we quickly do this one? Quick call or roll. Do we feel that the appellant has met the requirements of the second criteria?
David Bork,
Yes.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Richard Sookman,
Yes.
Joe Doherty,
Yes.
and Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Okay, the third criteria is the granting the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Michael, do you want to take this one away?
The need for this variance is due to the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. The essential characteristics of the neighborhood consist of such density development, large open space, rural, etc. And forgive me, guys, I'm at work.
It's okay.
With that being said, I think that a grant variance will not cause a problem, and I'm inclined to agree. I think this has been met.
I'd agree. If anything, the characteristics of the neighborhood is its presence within the marsh. And by granting the variance, we allow that essential character, which is essential to our town's identity, to persist. So I'm inclined to agree with this one. Any other thoughts from folks? Okay, quick call or roll, Doreen?
David Bork,
Yes.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Joe Doherty,
Yes.
Richard Sookman,
Yes.
and Michael Campbell.
Yes.
And finally, Rebecca, you'll take the last one. The hardship is not the result of action taken by the applicant or a prior owner of the property. Hardship must be caused by imposition of zoning restriction, not by action taken by the property owner.
Yes, the hardship does look like it's not due to action taken by the landowner, though much of the 3.8 acre parcel was comprised of marshland. It did meet zoning requirements at the time, although notably in form but not function.
I agree. And I will point out too that the marsh is creeping and taking over some properties around that we all know about. So, what was a good property in 1991 or 1997 may now be more marsh than not today. So I'm inclined to agree with this. Any other comments on this one?
Peter, I have one. What I'd like to make very clear in the record is that when an owner conveys out a portion of his or her property to another, basically subdividing it, and the resulting parcel that's left can't meet the zoning ordinance as it would stand at that point, that generally that's criteria that we would accept for granting a variance.
Sorry, say that again, Richard. You just got cut off.
That's not a situation that would meet the criteria for granting a variance.
Okay.
But in this instance, David Burke's point earlier about the town's need to protect marshland and open space has an overriding appeal that makes this in the public good.
Yeah. Richard, I agree with you entirely. And I do think we have to consider the nature of the purchaser or the person to whom the property is being conveyed, which is
I'd like it in the record that at least from my perspective as a board member, that I'm going along with this application because I believe that in the conveyance out, we're doing it for the town's benefit. And that generally a situation, I don't want this to be precedent somewhere down the road where somebody conveys out to his uncle a piece of property and says, I'm stuck now with an undevelopable property, I need a variance. Come to the board and say, look, you did this already for these folks. You should do it for me. I think that in this instance, the conveyance out is for a public purpose that overrides and is paramount to the town. It's not simply a public benefit, it's paramount to the town's identity. And so as a result, I'm willing to go along with this, but I would like the record to state that very clearly so that nobody uses this as precedent down the road for other circumstances.
I agree with that. And Doreen, as we craft the minutes, I'd ask you to highlight that, or at least make that very, very clear. I'm also want this to indicate that the nature of the acquirer being the state's conservation entity is a material element of a material fact to consider in the portrait we're painting here. So, with that in mind, any other discussion on this one? Hearing none, quick call the roll, Doreen. Have
David
we?
Bork?
Yes.
Richard Silkman,
Yes.
Joe Doherty,
Yes.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
and Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Got it. Then, having gone through the findings of fact, do I have a motion to approve the appeal 2792?
So moved.
I make a motion.
I'll move. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
We'll give Michael the second on that one. And then any further comment? Hearing none, Doreen, if you would call the roll to approve variance 2792.
David Bork,
Yes.
Richard Silkman,
Yes.
Joe Doherty,
Yes.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
and Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Terrific. That was a tricky one. I appreciate everyone kind of going through the labyrinth to get to the outcome. But it is not straightforward. I appreciate that time. So the variance is approved. I'd knock the gavel here if I had it, but thank you very much, Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and thank you, Mr. Vashon, for your patience.
Thank you.
We've elected our officers. Any other comments from folks tonight, or?
I would just note that I thought the meeting went very smoothly remotely with you chairing it, Peter. I think with somebody in the room like David there, his ability to point out periodically that somebody was coming to the podium was very helpful, and stepping in and helping direct traffic there was useful. So with that, I think the system works, and I think we can continue with it.
So it went better than I had feared, frankly. And if folks in the room felt it went okay, I agree. I thought that was a successful stressed run. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah. I'll try to not be at work next time.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, I would, first of all, I'd like to thank Richard for his comment. I would also point out that the two of us in the room had the benefit of the variance appeal draft in front of us. And I can see that none of you who are remote had that, did you?
I did, but to your point, David, I was swapping between windows on my screen and having to page through PDFs and things like that.
Right.
That was the one part that was challenging for me. And you could kind of tell that as I was caught between the one map on the thing and the map that was buried in the application. So you're right. You did have that benefit, which was
I
helpful.
will suggest that we include that somehow going in the future to anybody who's remote to see that, because those are some of the key points that we need to take into consideration, in coming up with findings of fact and the conclusions of law. So we have an advantage here because we had that in front of us.
Yep, I hear you.
You didn't. Yeah, and I can understand, that it must have been difficult, trying to run this meeting, but it actually came off pretty well. So congratulations, Joel.
Thank you. Terrific.
You know, Peter, we have the new software that we'll get to use next time, and there's actually a way that we can provide information on it just for members, just this group. So that might be a way we can do that. So
Yeah.
if you're Zoom or in the room, you still have the ability to see it, not have to necessarily rely on the printed copy.
Thank you.
And I will say, I've seen the new software. It's a lot better than the board docs thing. I can't stand board docs. The new software is light years ahead of it. So I think we'll enjoy having a better tool.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There, second?
Second.
There we go. All in favor, raise your hands. We're done. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you, Autumn. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Doreen. Doreen, I'm back in a week and a half, so I'll sign stuff in a week and a half. But take care and stay warm, everyone.
Thank you.